struggle. Coming in here, I wasn't really sure what it was going to be like, and I figured being myself was the best option. And it was, because I guess at school, I don't really know if I'm myself or I'm like trying to be a different person, but here I know I'm being myself.
And when I'm back in Chicago, I feel it.
When you hear the words youth group, you definitely have a vision of like sitting in a circle, like talking about really super religious stuff, and it seems like that's not fun and that's like something you have to do. That's sort of the image I had in my mind, but it's just not at all like that.
Another version of me, I was in it.
It's super different because it's a group of people from like a bunch of different like social groups and different schools. Like, it's nice to be in a group of people that don't see each other every day.
It's good to meet people that like don't go to your school, because then you can like meet new people that you never would have before.
At first I did not want to come because I thought it was going to be like a very quiet, silent classroom where no one like answers like the facilitator when they ask questions.
I thought I would feel like the odd one out, where it was the complete opposite. The second I walked through the door, everybody is so kind to me, and I think that's what part of senior youth is. That's what makes this group.
Everyone's so welcoming, friendly.
I love hanging out with like so many different kinds of people in so many ways that all have different interests and takes on things.
When someone says church group, I think a lot of people would go to like kids learning about God, but that's not really what we do here at all.
It doesn't seem like school, and it also doesn't seem like a church youth group. It just seems like I'm hanging out with my friends.
There's an aspect about senior youth that's more of a place that you can just settle into who you are instead of feeling like you have to change.
It's like a safe space, and things that are said here stay here.
And that is very nice, knowing that when you do open up about those more personal things, it's not going anywhere. It's gonna stay right there.
I feel comfortable here just because I feel like I know everyone, and everyone is nice to you, and they're welcoming whenever you come in. It feels like they want you to be here.
I feel really comfortable. Like, it's like we're all like super close friends. Like, I feel like I can really be myself.
I feel like this is a place I can come and belong. I think when it comes down to it, I think that's what youth group is meant for.
I would say all humans, but especially adolescents, are hungry for deep relationship. It's like a stage in life where you are pulling away from the intimate of your family in a really concrete way and looking for replacing that intimacy in other relationships. So you don't have to work very hard for youth to want to be in space where there is an opportunity for that kind of relationship building. So really where you're focusing is creating a sense of trust and safety and opportunities for that kind of interaction, for that kind of vulnerability.
I think it's important to put a lot of thought and intention around goals, like kind of like what we're trying to do in the program and shaping what the container is so that we can put participants in that container and then kind of let it happen.
It can be so intimidating, and I felt this at the beginning, to join a group that knows each other so well. But the reason we know each other so well is because we're all just being ourselves and are trying our best to be really kind and empathetic.
From day one, this has always been a space where I've never felt judged or felt like I couldn't be myself, which makes me feel so comfortable, and it's really cool that we have that space here.
It just feels like there's a very strong sense of community here.
We do have different opinions, but everybody is open to hearing yours and like learning about who you are.
At school, like everyone feels like they have to like pretend to like be cool or whatever. But I feel like since like everyone's just like here and like, you know, we're not going to school together, so there's like not that pressure. So I feel like everyone's just like, oh, we can just be ourselves.
Did you know that vegetarian sharks exist? Bet you didn't, 'cause they do. Every day, Reggie says hi to the school of fish, and they all swim away out of fear that he's going to eat them. Suddenly, a sea cucumber pops up from behind a rock. How about you make it so they have to listen? The next day, he hides behind some kelp, waiting for the school of fish to swim by. When they pass, he jumps out in front of them. Wait! I'm not gonna eat you. I don't like to eat fish. But the loud noise and abrupt movement scared the fish even more, and they swim fast, fast, fast away. Reggie returned sadly to the sea cucumber. That didn't work. They're never gonna listen. How about you try more peacefully? Let them ask questions. Okay, Reggie says reluctantly. Later that day, Reggie swims to find the fish. He hides behind the kelp so as not to startle them and begins to speak to them. Fishies, why are you scared of that whale shark, Reggie? Because he wants to eat us. He's a shark. No, actually, he's a whale shark. So he's more like a fish. He likes to eat plankton too. Oh, say the fish. Would he be able to help us find more plankton? Most deaf. Would it be okay if he joined you tomorrow to search for them? Of course. Are you sure he's not trying to trick us? Yes, he really just wants to be your friend.
Their acceptance of one another, it's so refreshing and honest. I love the fact that because South Church is a larger congregation, that we, on any given Sunday can have kids representing 6, 7, 8 high schools. And in their high school, they probably have a clique or a group or a persona that they have to keep up. And all that drops away when they get to senior youth.
I just know everybody's listening and really taking into consideration what I'm saying. So that makes it, I guess, maybe easier to share what I'm thinking, and knowing that there's people taking that in and actually having something to say back.
I would describe our structure as very organic and rooted in relationship.
It's not about filling them up with information or bestowing knowledge upon them. It's about creating a space where they can grow into their own power individually and as a sub-community of our larger church community.
Reggie swims to meet the fish by the coral reef the next morning. The fish approach slowly, still a little fearful of Reggie's huge shark body, but Reggie smiles. Ready to go find some plankton, he says. Yippee! Turns out, Reggie knows all the best places for plankton. And he's so strong that he's even strong enough to lift the heaviest rocks. The fish are better off with Reggie as their friend, and they learn that listening, not assuming, is the best way to truly get to know a new friend.
One of the things that informs my own ministry, the way that I come to Unitarian Universalism, is my own experiences as a young person in Unitarian Universalist community. And that culture included things that allowed me access to other youth and to have a kind of a relationship, a depth of relationship with peers that I wasn't finding in high school. And it was life-changing for me.
Our vulnerability ranges from like being silly and like doing funny things, and then also like, I don't know, like talking about deep stuff that we might not talk about with someone else.
I'm getting really good advice from people that I trust and value, so I know it's something that I should take into consideration, and I'm really thinking about what they have to say, and that changes so many things in so many positive ways.
I find sharing my thoughts with the group being really helpful in case there's like something on my mind that I want to talk about.
You want to hear everyone's opinion, even if it is a little different than yours. It's still good to hear different opinions and seeing how people's lives are different and
There's been, like, I can think of instances off the top of my head where, like, when there's big topics going on in our own community, I feel like we talk a lot about it, and it's good.
Lots of things with them in the youth group are used, like meant to be used in our lives, like different ways of interacting, how to make sure that you're talking enough but not talking too much in a conversation.
It's a formal-ish safe space where we can actually sit and talk about issues that matter to us.
I feel comfortable just by like observing kinda and then commenting where I can, just being.
The beginning of every year, there's always an influx of new freshmen and potentially other youth that haven't been coming before. So the beginning of a year always involves a lot of getting the activities that are built around building trust and getting to know one another. But that's also true at the beginning of any session throughout the whole year, because at any given time we're a different combination of people. Any given time there might be someone new or someone who hasn't been there in a while. So you're kind of reorienting. There's like an element of orientation in the flow of even any single session. There's an element of relationship building, trust building in the flow of any session.
It's really important to start out with, like welcome, like people forget how important just like welcoming someone when they show up is. And then easing in, after we welcome people, helping them know like what they need to know to be safe. What are any hazards here? Where do you find the bathroom? That's just kind of a really obvious basic thing. If I show up and I don't know where the bathroom is, I'm not going to feel great. And I may not even realize it, but that's the kind of thing. And also establishing what the structure and routines are that build trust and that people can rely on when they show up.
It always starts off with like a chalice and we like say opening words.
We kind of hang out for a bit, talk with each other, amongst the youth, grab any snack that we want to. We always have those laid out.
We'll like go around saying our names and like saying how we're doing.
When we like go around the circle and just like say our week's been, that's always like really nice.
And we get to the actual nitty gritty. We start getting down into whatever our activity for that day is.
Usually we'll talk about like a project or an event that's coming up, and we'll kind of go more in depth about it.
It ranges because it can be like what we're doing as our topic for the year, or it can be what we're doing on our trip.
Sometimes we talk about like what it means to be a UU.
And sometimes we make things. Like I remember my first ever meeting, we did like candles. We made the candles that we were recycling into little jars.
Often at the end of it, we'll play a game and say closing words, and yeah, that's about it.
It's a good amount of time where I don't get bored, and it's long enough where I have fun.
It's all repetition. It's like millions of tiny little interactions that build on each other. And it's about consistency. And I think one of the things as an adult in that space is like having a vision of what it looks like, because over the years, like you get a sense of when it feels right, it feels right. When it doesn't feel right, that too. And so then you're just steering a little bit, or you're slowing things down a little bit, or inviting a question.
I took this workshop one time from a mentor of mine called What Time Is It? And so just really always paying attention to like, where are we? Like, what do we need right now? And so when you build a program, you can't just jump right into hard conversations, because people aren't willing to be vulnerable if they're not safe, if there's no group bonding that happens in advance.
I think the play piece is really important for the kids.
I love when we play like random games, and sometimes we make them up, but they're always fun.
Shoe golf is a classic. That's really good stuff.
So basically it's like regular golf where you have your shoe as your ball and then you kick it instead of hitting the ball with a club. So you try to kick your shoe as close to the hole as possible.
Play it's bonding, it's pushing against power dynamics with one another. It helps them develop all kinds of things. We may change how we play over time, but the release of play is important. The intimacy of play and the spirit of adventure and communality of play is really important.
Some time for like some movement after we talk about stuff. It makes things less uncomfortable and less serious all the time.
If we have a particularly heavy session around, maybe we're learning about some specifics around a justice issue, or we're watching a movie or something, we always try to make sure that we've got a chunk of time for like the release, because that release is a part of what lets you integrate what you've learned.
I mean, the fact that we eat food during our meetings makes it feel a lot more casual, a lot more homey. Just makes me feel like I'm like sitting hanging out with my friends rather than being like a formal meeting, strict sort of event.
Food is a lubricant, right? It's deep in our human psyche. It's like breaking bread with one another. It's a thing that keeps our hands occupied and allows us to have like something to talk about, something to share with each other that's so in common.
It definitely just like helps people be like more like relaxed if it's like their first time coming here and they're like a little stressed.
Especially like at the beginning of the year when people are still a little like unsure. You go over to the table and you like find what you want to eat.
And it gives you something to like bond over almost. He's like, oh, I like those chips. And then another kid goes, yeah, I like those too. And everyone at least has something to talk about.
I must admit, it's like kind of the reason some people come, you know, like you get snacks and that's lit.
Oh man, food really drives me to come here. The snacks are at top tier. Tim definitely does a great job.
Growing up in my family, every opportunity to get together always really centered around food, and that many of the adults when I was a kid, the way they were very clearly expressing their love and concern for their family was going all out with food. and that just, got baked into me.
Oh yeah, the snacks are like a big part of this. That's where like most of the conversations take place.
Food brings people together.
Also, like in our community at this point, programs where there's some discomfort, we like all kinds of really good snacks, right? So it's like, okay, I'm doing something risky and there's this really tangible reward.
Food, I think, just makes people happy.
If there's no food, you just feel like sitting in a room with other people, which is kind of boring.
We do a ritual at the beginning of the year, kind of an opening night where we go over logistics and how the group works, and then we have a little service, and then it's a sleepover. And I think that whole thing kind of sets the tone. We're going to have our little service and our little spirituality piece, and then we're just going to play and have fun.
Sleepovers, I think, is like the biggest community builder of the whole year.
One of my favorite memories was probably like the first sleepover we had at the church, just because like it was a new experience. Sort of like stay up late and like play games and stuff. It helps being like close to people.
Makes it easier to learn because you sort of like get to know each other better, connect, become like friends truly.
So when you build the deepest connections, I felt.
It's just like being out in nature. We get to like bond like over s'mores, or just be outside breathing the fresh air, and I just feel like that just makes it like different somehow.
If we're all like experiencing something at the same time, it can kind of help us bond.
I see those connections like grow stronger and also get to build new ones with people.
With that community, it allows you to talk about the harder subjects.
It's really good like when we do have those conversations, and then I feel like we all kind of ask each other questions that make us think further.
It's very relevant. Everything that we talk about is very relevant, and it just kind of helps keep you there.
As the sessions went on, I would really start to open up and express my opinions, and I think that's helped me not only in youth group but in other aspects of my life to just sort of talk about whatever it is that's important to me, even if it's hard to talk about.
They are coming from different places and they are different people, and they all bring such a special part of themselves and their experiences to our group.
You don't always have the same opinions as everyone, so it's just like maneuvering through it, and like you don't want to make anyone upset, but you still want to learn from each other and your different points of views.
I think it is about that relationship and kind of getting to know them, and being able to spend that time, and the way that the group does check-ins as often as we do. You get sometimes superficial answers and sometimes really heartfelt things when kids are either way up and happy, or sometimes way down in the dumps, or whatever, stressing them out. And a lot of that real open and honest communication and scouting and coaching and those opportunities, it's often not that kind of an open, trusting relationship in that same way.
Because Maisie's still standing, Veda's still standing, Christopher's still standing in a very cool hat. Amelia's even standing, but she's washing dishes. Magnolia, we don't know what she's doing, but she is standing.
A lot of it is showing you what you can do to make that difference, whether it's providing you with the opportunities to, whether it be like going to a rally, or like, hey, you can come and talk at this place, try and support these people.
It really helps us make differences in the world, because like everyone can, and to make the world a better place. And the senior youth group, they give you lots of like opportunities to help you do that.
So learning how to really look for truth in social justice, climate justice, recognizing that all of these different topics are connected. Every kind of oppression and environmental issue, those are all connected topics, but you have to really be willing to look at hard truths.
We ask questions to the group, so I think it helps us make the right decision.
I think of faith in general as you look in, you look at your intimates, you look at your immediate community, and then you look out, and you're kind of always wrapping. You're kind of always cycling between those things. How am I with you? How are we with us? How are us with us? And that's sort of how I would describe the way we think about youth group.
At the end of each meeting, it's normally something you want to take away from the meeting. Recently, it's been on the person across from you, you say a compliment about them, or something you noticed today, or something you want to bring with you throughout the week.
The end of day discussions really help me think more about what I'm gonna achieve this week.
I think it just helps you carry what you learned in the meeting, so it's not just here in this building, but it gets spread throughout the world.
One of the things that has become kind of a big piece of youth group is having an annual end of year experiential offering, which is often rooted in place-based justice education. And there's lots of reasons for that. One of which is that it's compelling. It's really impactful. It really helps us deepen relationship within the group. It also helps us tune into the wider world in a lot of really concrete ways. And because that kind of end of year nugget has become such a part of our annual cycle, we build to it throughout the year, every year.
I've been on 3 trips with the youth group to West Virginia, Alabama, and New Mexico, and these have really impacted how I view America and different social justice issues.
My favorite one was the one at War, West Virginia, because it was a much more service-based trip where we did a lot of physical labor to help out people that are down there.
We were in a different part of the country that I don't think anyone had really seen before, so that was cool to see everyone's experience.
To be able to go on those trips, you can't just show up at the end of the program year and go on one. We have expectations.
We take a lot of steps and we have a lot of thought into preparing this trip.
We'll do like learning journeys where we like come in and like discuss about like the topic.
Or we'll have to read a book or watch a movie about the subject.
And we like get together, we like talk about it, and then sometimes we'll like visit someplace and it like helps deepen our understanding of what we're gonna do.
We kind of learn about like the history of the region or like how people today there live. And then when we're there, we're better informed and we can like ask people there more like specific questions. And I think that really helps to like be able to really understand what we're experiencing when we're there.
That's a big piece, is just learning about that culture and learning like things that are and are not okay to ask or talk about in those places.
Some of the places we go to, like they're like, oh, like, you know, we don't want you taking pictures, and it's kind of just like respecting boundaries, but also like just learning about other people, because I mean, you know, so many people go through so many different experiences, and it's just like really interesting.
I'm going to Baltimore in 6 weeks, less now. And people keep saying to me, well, that's not really a vacation. And I'm like, well, I guess not, but it's like almost like the best kind of vacation. It's so enriching for me. I feel so lucky.
Most people don't get that experience, like traveling with just a random group of teenagers all together. When you're in the airport and there's like 4 adults watching over you, but it feels like you're just a bunch of kids running through an airport or out in public in a place like far away from home.
Sometimes it is very chaotic because it is really hard when you're traveling with like 30 other people, and you know some of them want to walk around and you just can't, you're out of control, you can't contain them all. But I think traveling with a big group of people has taught me you don't need to control everything.
In my regular day-to-day life, I would struggle with that lack of structure that's there, but that's the right amount of structure for that group.
I like the chaos and I like the adventure. You know, there are ups and downs, but like consistently every time I've gone on a trip with this many people, it has been super fun, and just it's an experience that you cannot easily forget.
They're so easy to be with. I mean, they have to get up early and cook everybody breakfast, and they don't complain. And they have to stay up late and clean up the kitchen, and they don't complain. They just are fun and playful and then serious and insightful and all of the things. And I've done it for many years, so it's not the same kids all the time, but they all step up.
You wake up way too early, like way earlier than you would ever want to wake up. But it's very gentle, they're very kind to you, and then you get ready, and then you get in the vans, and you go out and do whatever they plan. They don't really tell us what we're gonna do beforehand. It's sort of a mystery, but we know like the general layout of the week.
It definitely depends on the trip. So in West Virginia, we just worked all day. We were like scooping dirt underneath this man's house, like down in his basement the whole day. And then we were like building a ramp, like working with our hands. But then the next year when we went to Alabama, it was a lot of like museums and like learning from people. So it was much more like listening and taking in all like history of the United States. And then when we went to New Mexico, it was a lot of different traveling, went to different pueblos.
With everyone together in the cars, like travel days are long normally in the car together, but you normally find somewhere to like pull off and stop. You see something weird on the side of the road and everyone gets out and looks at it for a little while, or you stop at the gas station and then you end up being there like an hour because we have 25, 30 people normally.
So the first day, you've just traveled to like wherever we're going and you're really tired, and they're like, okay, everybody get back in the vans, we're going grocery shopping.
And then we spent like a ridiculous amount of money to like buy food for like 20 kids.
It's really fun.
They like divide up like who's gonna be in like what group. I remember like my group was in charge of like getting like the dairy products, and we each have like our own shopping list, and then we can like pick out like what foods we want and stuff.
And we get a lot of groceries.
So every day, like you either pick up it for a meal or you're making it.
And it's all like very much a team effort, and it's like really fun. And it seems like if you think about it, like grocery shopping and cooking, it's like work, but when you're like doing it with the other people in your group, it's so much fun.
And then usually there's a group assigned to play for the evening, and they have to design play. And I think They're very intentionally designed to, you know, have a variety of voices in each group.
Hi. How are you today? Good. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Rookie, like, I'm excited to be here. Yeah, good.
You're not allowed to take a phone, but you can take like a disposable camera or like a digital camera.
I just handed my phone to my parents before I got picked up to go to the airport.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like a way of keeping people like present during the trip.
When you don't have your phone, it just changes like so many things about, I think, how most of us at least like generally function.
The first day, it's definitely weird because like you go into your pocket and you like don't feel your phone, and then you like kind of, I wouldn't say like freak out, but then you're kind of like wondering where it is.
I remember in West Virginia when we were at the airport and we were waiting for the rental cars when we first got there. It was so funny how many people for so many times just go reach for your phone, right? I didn't really like have that like, oh, I need to pick it up, but I could still feel it there. And it's like just kind of the ubiquity of that. Like that in and of itself was quite eye-opening without the rest of the trip.
Over the span like the week, it definitely gets like easier and you just forget you have one.
Phones immediately disconnect us. So on these trips, we don't allow phones because we want people to be present. We want people to be focused on each other. And we do meet resistance with that quite a bit. And always the kids on their first time feel really anxious about not having their phones. And then by the end of the trip, almost always they are expressing how grateful they are. They use words like, I've felt so free without my phone. It's been liberating. And they talk about how it's so much less stressful to not have their phones. And on any of these trips, the first day or two, you can see the anxiety. They're like needing their phones. By the end, they love not having them.
Without it, I'd like enjoy nature more, I guess. It's like great to like just talk to people.
The clarity of that trip is really something that I feel like more people should experience in some fashion. And honestly, I feel like, at least myself, I feel like I need to experience more often than I let myself.
I think it's really important to learn skills without your phone and how to manage things, because you can manage things without your phone. And a lot of cool experiences come from that.
Quality control, excellent quality control by Arya, getting the paper out of the pasta. Because it's not paper pasta night.
It's such an enriching experience to have the opportunity to visit a different culture. I think there's sort of a universal understanding of that. Like, we know how good it is for us to travel, and the wisdom that you gain by widening your relationships. And so visiting a different community, going somewhere away from home, is really valuable. And it can be really problematic because if you haven't done the work to think about who you are and the impact of your presence and the expectations that you have, the ones that you're conscious of and the ones you're not conscious of, you can end up coming into a relationship with imbalance in terms of the benefits. Like, it's good for you, but not necessarily good for the community that you're visiting.
I feel like the first step of that sort of process is just awareness of how privileged we are and like how lucky we are to go on these trips and experience a fraction of things that these other people experience, and then we get to go home and sort of go back to our normal lives.
The best part about it is hearing their voices during the trip about what's been going on. Their insight and their perspectives are incredible.
When we went to New Mexico, we were trying to help the people who were like being affected by the fires. So we like went to the grocery store and buy a lot of stuff, and then we like went to like a drop off where we dropped that stuff off.
We learned a lot about the indigenous people that live there, and we got invited to go to one of their feast days.
It was a really cool experience. I don't think we were originally like gonna go, but like the people that we donated to invited us.
I thought that was like so cool how they were just like, that family was just like so welcoming. and just like provided food for all of us.
They were like celebrating like a saint. The food they had was like fantastic, and it was kind of like an all-you-can-eat type of food.
I was like really happy to like get to like see another part of the world that I hadn't been able to see and like learn about that culture, because I had like knew nothing about that culture, and then I like spent a week immersing myself, and I thought that was like really cool.
Place-based justice education can happen like at the African burying ground a half a block from the church, right? Like that's a place where you can do place-based justice education. It doesn't mean you have to go 100 miles or 500 miles away, but it's specific to a place and is rooted in a community and a culture and a story.
When we get there, I think we all try to keep in mind that like we are here to learn from them or like do service work that they need. So we always keep that open mind and not think about like what we believe needs to be done to like improve a certain issue.
And making sure that when you go into something that you don't know a lot about, realizing that you don't know anything about it and being willing to change that.
Every year we do work on centering and decentering ourselves. Who gets to tell the stories of our country or of our faith or of our life, right? Like, and who should be able to be a part of telling that story? How do you start to notice when you need to push to be heard? And how do you start to notice when it's your job to step back and make space for someone else to be heard? Just a really foundational muscle for being able to engage with any kind of justice in the world.
One of those moments happened on a senior youth trip to Birmingham, Selma, and Montgomery, Alabama, where we learned about the horrific past of racism in America and how discrimination lives on today. Though I absorbed so much information on the trip, what has changed how I see the world is a conversation we had with Dr. Bernard Lafayette. Dr. Lafayette told us about his experiences during the civil rights movement. He grew up in segregation and knew he wanted to help change the nation. In college, he was roommates with John Lewis, and together, they began protesting for equal rights. Dr. Lafayette became an important part of the civil rights movement. He led lunch counter sit-ins, helped found the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, continued the Freedom Rides, and became an integral part of the Selma Voting Rights Movement, which organized the Selma to Montgomery March across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, what became known as Bloody Sunday.
Even as an adult, the service learning that we've done on all of the trips around, social justice issues has been really eye-opening. And the thing that I really have so much more of an appreciation for now is the value of getting proximate. That very first trip that we did, when we went to West Virginia, and we went to an area in Appalachia that has seen better days, where there's lots of poverty and other issues, and to go and spend a week right in the middle of it and meeting all the wonderful people who are still making it work in spite of all the things that are stacked against them there. I just came away from it, really a changed person.
We have created such division in our country. We are so isolated from one another's experiences. And then people try to sort of tackle a problem that they don't understand. And so you think about like people who are experiencing poverty are completely separate from people who are living with wealth. And yet the people who are trying to solve those problems are often not the ones experiencing the problems. And so getting proximate as a really important first step to us starting to think about solutions is like first just spending time close to a problem, whatever it is, and in relationship with the people who are living that problem or living it yourself, right? Like there is wisdom in the proximity of being close to something.
Getting close to like where the issue is like really happening and learning from people who are like dealing with the issue. That's really what these trips are about.
When you are in Tijuana and the folks there are telling you about how they have relatives in the United States but they can't go see them, you just start crying. It hits you, it really does.
Before I went on these trips, like I didn't realize how diverse America is because I only lived in one place really. So like I didn't really see like how different people think around the country, and it definitely changes like where you go, and people have such different experiences. Like when we were just driving into the town we visited, which was War, West Virginia, I didn't, like there was such big hills, but then also like half of them were like cut down because of like the coal industry, and seeing that really surprised me because we'd like learned about, you know, how negatively the industry impacted the environment, but it didn't really click until we got there, so that really surprised me. And then also just like talking to the people and how like hearing their history and how like decades and decades of their families like have been in the coal mining industry, but how they still, you know, like have respect for the industry and love it, even though it's like caused them to be in poverty and like the communities to be wrecked.
I love when a light bulb clicks, you know, when I'm walking down the street in West Virginia and the girl I'm walking with is wondering why there's trash on the ground, and then the light bulb hits her that for them, they're worried about things at a whole nother level than we are here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So we think about recycling, but that's so far down on the list. And when that light bulb went off, I can still remember that to this day, and that was over 10 years ago.
You have to like let go of some control when you're visiting a new place with people that are like very different from you. Like in West Virginia, like we just didn't talk about like politics or religion, and like in Alabama, you know, it was more about like listening and then like asking very like thoughtful questions, but it was more just like absorbing information. Like letting go of the idea that you have to have similarities with someone to understand them.
It was a really good opportunity to use a skill that you don't really use a lot as a teenager, which is just like sitting there and just listening and letting people who have had more experiences than you and in some ways like know a lot more than you, just let them like tell what they have to tell and you just take that in.
These kinds of trips, it's not like going to Disney World where everything is safe and easy and superficial. You know, that's a fine model of travel, but what we're doing is finding those edges. That's what it's about, is growing into edges and truth.
So when we were in Tijuana, our whole group was on the beach. It's a weekend, it's a beautiful day, it's a beach day. And then we watched a gentleman jump the fence into the United States and immediately get caught by Border Patrol and taken away. I mean, you can't just teach that in a book, but to actually sit there and watch it in real life, we then had an opportunity to discuss what must have been going on in his head, to think that his situation was worse and it would be better to climb the fence than not climb the fence. You find yourself just automatically being in these amazingly teachable moments that happen organically.
As humans, comfort matters, right? And there's this really great model of like 3 concentric circles. And the middle one is your comfort zone. And we love being in our comfort zone. Comfort zone is like when you're in bed in the morning and it's raining outside and you're just like, oh, there's nothing better, right? And it's hard to push yourself out of bed because it feels so good to be in that spot. But not a whole lot of growth happens when you're in your comfort zone. When you move into the learning zone, which is the next circle out, this is where you're challenged a little bit, and it's not super comfortable. And depending on how much of your time you spend in your comfort zone, the learning zone might be pretty small before you get to the panic zone. So you're trying to invite people out of their comfort zone into that learning zone while being mindful of where the edges of their panic zone, and everyone's different. And the idea isn't that we all get to the same place, it's that we're all pushing ourself into that growth space as much as possible.
So I am like very claustrophobic, and it was my first youth group trip, and I had to go into a 3-foot high underground basement thing that was made of dirt, and like the ceiling was caving in a little bit because it was literally under a house, and I had to just go in there and just dig for 5 hours a day for a couple days. And at first I was like, hell no, I'm not going in there. Like, are you kidding me? This is how I die. And then, but I had to because like everyone was doing it. So I got peer pressured into it, and it was just so fun. And now I'm a little less claustrophobic.
I love when we can find someone's edge and they're in it and they're willing to sit with it, and they trust us enough to sit in it with them and move forward even though they're really feeling nervous about it. And then seeing them on the other side, this glow that happens is just amazing.
We drove out into this little holler in West Virginia, and we were tasked with building a fence on this lady's property because there were wild pit bulls who were like gonna attack her grandchildren. I forget the woman's name, but I think it was like Martha, and she was so sweet, and it was so hot outside, and since I was the only girl, she invited me onto the porch to like sit with her, and it was so sweet. Like she was an older woman in like the middle of West Virginia, and I was like a young like liberal teenager in the middle of like Maine, and we just connected on such like a soul level that it was just like one of the most meaningful connections I've ever had with a human.
The bonding that happens when you go through challenge together creates like a tightness in relationship that is hard to replicate. So like that is happening throughout the program year with check-ins, with deep discussions, but then to physically be traveling and to be, there was one situation where we were renting a house that had 2 bathrooms, but one broke. We were working in Alabama on a farm in 100-degree heat one day, and so going back to this house with 20 whatever really dirty, tired, exhausted, hungry people, and those teams created a bathroom schedule and a plan where there was a schedule for showers and an understanding that before you go into the shower, you ask if anyone needs to use the toilet first, and nobody complained, and there was a team working on cooking dinner at that same time. It's kind of the opposite of a Disney vacation, but then the after isn't just, oh yeah, it was super fun. It's like I made so many friends and they're crying in the airport because they're not going to see each other for a while.
I'd say this about West Virginia, but I'd say it about all of them. They're all always life-changing, even if you don't expect it.
Each trip I think has shaped me in a different way. My first trip, I came home because and I had never experienced like anything like that before. And I remember coming home and I was exhausted also, but I just like sobbed. Like I missed all my best friends, and I just like was thinking about all the crazy experiences I had had, and I was kind of overwhelmed that I didn't know how to like use all this knowledge and experience I had learned in like my community.
Sometimes it can feel really heavy to come back here after you've experienced such an important and impactful thing, but we spend a lot of time discussing and kind of reflecting on it.
I often get reactions from coworkers and others who cannot imagine how that could be fun. Going and doing that with that many high schoolers, and just cramming in a van and driving a bunch of hours and going and sometimes doing hard physical labor. But it is just such a growth opportunity, and to see the impact that it has on the kids is just, I don't know, charges my battery for sure. I think really it's the kind of thing you have to experience. And I think this is true for a lot of the kids. I think we can tell them in a classroom about civil rights history, but when you go and you walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge and you understand what happened there in the 60s, it's a very different kind of an understanding of American history and the things that we're still facing today.
It's just such a crazy, one-of-a-kind sort of situation. There's really no other circumstance where I'd be with 20 other kids, in some state I've never been to before. Senior youth as a whole has definitely shaped me, but those trips, it's so like concentrated. It's the senior youth experience times a billion, and then it's like one whole week with these people having these experiences, and you come back and you're like, oh my god, I'm like a totally different person.
I think just like going home like with a different mindset, like, oh wow, like there are tons of different people with a bunch of different stories, you know, maybe try to get to learn about a new person and, you know, learn more about the world.
It's like changed who I am as a person, like in a way of being like seeing things through a different lens.
I'm a lot nicer to people than I used to be, I feel like. And it's just like, I don't judge people as quickly as I used to.
It changed some of the actions that I might have taken previously.
I feel like I keep improving as I grow and as I learn more about our world and our country. I feel like I've been more mindful, and from the trips we've gone on, I think I've just been a lot more vocal about my opinions, especially on human rights and social justice.
I think it's getting out of where I normally live and seeing like a different way of life, even though it's in the same country, like different views.
Down in the holler, way over yonder, we met Marcia's daughter, you see. Houston made me drink some water, so I grew a little taller.
The youth that we have in our group that we're blessed to have are generally optimistic and socially conscious, caring kids. And the thing that really just continually resonates with me is I have so much hope for the future, and the more time I spend with these kids, the more hope that I have.
Overall, like as a group, we have more power. When we go on trips, we can come back and then teach everyone else. And so if there's 20 of us that go on that group, then we all come back and teach one person, and then there's 20 more people that know that, and it just spreads.
I take what we learn and think about it through my kind of like lens and to do with my issues in my life, and that helps me see sometimes like a different angle on things, and that can change the outcome of a lot of situations.
I feel like being in senior youth makes me want to be a better person because everyone else in the group is trying to learn or like do service to their community.
We carry over what we learn into our lives.
You never know the whole story, and that's a big part of our trips that we go on, is talking about how there is so much we don't know or understand, but we still have the capacity to learn.
I think senior youth helps us be more accepting and overall just nicer to people. Like, you stop and think before you do something.
So it also, like, youth group shows us like that we are important, and like even just by like showing care to other people, we can make differences.
And it just keeps evolving. You know, the very first Sunday that I showed back up, when we were circling up at the end, just to say something nice before we finished and went our separate ways. There was a person sitting next to me who just had it all together. This person was a senior. They know where they're going to college. They know what they're going to study. Everything's going well for them. And the person they had right across from them was the shyest freshman in the whole group. And to see that senior pay that freshman a compliment, it just is so amazing to watch. And it just creates this group because it happens then year over year. And we'll see it, right? 3 years from now, that freshman will be a senior paying some freshman a compliment. It's the coolest thing.
This group has definitely made me like more accepting of people, and like at school, if there's a new kid, I'll go talk to them and try to be their friend.
I've learned a lot of stuff here, and I've made some great friends here.
So many self-realizations of just like, this is something that I like super enjoy, and like just things that I would have otherwise would have never experienced in any way, shape, form, or fashion, and it kind of cascades and has ripple effects across the rest of your life.
Just being willing to listen to the experiences of others. I honestly think that's the biggest piece, is just going in understanding that you're not going to know everything about everyone and allowing yourself to learn those new things about people.
Letting go of the fact that you have to be perfect, and that letting go of like the idea that you have to have similarities with someone to understand them. Like, I think we talk a lot about having an open mind and like building empathy, and you can get to know someone just on that. You don't have to have the same political ideas or the same background or the same race or the same gender. Like, you can literally just have a conversation with someone about anything but that and have a very meaningful conversation.
As a group, with everybody and people from different walks of life and different views, together we can have a really cool perspective and make a lot of changes. I think that community is really important, and that togetherness is key to making those differences.
I don't even know why or how we've created this sort of space, but you just never feel like you're out of place. And this is just such like a special and different and like sort of magical space for me. Like, my best friends are here, and when life outside of this group feels like hard, and it's hard to be friends with my friends, and it's hard to do my schoolwork, and it's hard to think about the future, I always know that these people are here, and it just, like, when I'm here, it feels so easy to just like exist.
When you commit to creating space for young people to have healthy relationships and have opportunities to thrive, they do. And so if we can learn how to create those spaces and start consistently raising up young people whose hearts are held, who own who they are, who feel empowered and cared for, and also accountable, also responsible, also they recognize that they belong to something bigger than themselves. It is living proof that when that happens, it's generative and it changes the world.